Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to make a muck dyed and gravity dyed geode. So this hoodie is going to be for a young man, so I'm using an Arizona brand 100% cotton men's hoodie. I purchased quite a few of these several years ago from JCPenney, but I'm not sure they sell these anymore. I looked for them last year and I couldn't find any. This is a size that I don't sell a whole lot of or use a whole lot, so I just happen to have a couple of these left. I'm going to do one of the gravity and muck dyed geodes, so I'm dividing the hoodie in half diagonally. I'm going to fan fold this diagonal line and then I'm going to tie it with some sinew. That's going to be a separation line between my geodes and the gravity dye. I'm going to use sinew for my line, but I already know as thick as this fold is and as wide as these fan folds are, I'm not entirely sure I can get a good tight seal on my sinew. I can get it tightened down enough that it's going to make a definition line, which is good enough. I'm going to wrap it around several times, and then as I pull it tight, I'm going to try to keep my hand flat against those folds. Hopefully that will help the sinew tighten down on them and not just buckle the folds. Sometimes when the folds are really wide like this, they'll kind of buckle in the middle instead of tightening down all the way across the folds. This one seems to be doing pretty well. So on the top half of the hoodie, I'm going to tie geodes, and I'm going to do those the way I normally do. Grabbing an area where I'd like the center to be, sliding my hand down to where I want the bottom or the outer ring of the geode to be, and I'm going to start tying from there. I'm going to try to vary the amount of lines in each of the geodes and the distance between the lines. I'm also going to make the geodes different sizes. It's a little tougher the closer I get to that sinew line that I just tied because the folds are really tight in there and it's very difficult to kind of break that up and incorporate that area into a geode. I'm going to do my best though to try to get as close to that line as I can and make as many geodes in this area as possible. I'm going to go ahead and speed the video up a little bit more. But if it's going too fast for you and you'd like to see what I'm doing a little bit better, you can always go to the settings icon and change the playback speed. There's a way to do that on either a desktop or on a mobile device. You can either speed up or slow down the video to make it more comfortable to watch. By the way, when I get to the sleeve, I'm going to tie it the way I've tied the rest of the hoodie. Okay, so I have one half of the hoodie tied with geodes, and I want a few definition lines in the area between the geodes. I don't want that space to just be blank. So I'm going to use my sinew and tie a few lines in that space. As I'm doing this, I'm also kind of pushing those geodes into an area where it's going to be a little bit easier for me to apply the dye. I'm trying to flatten them out just a little bit. For this hoodie, I'm going to use several different shades of aqua and blue. And the setup that I'm using is I have a metal shelving unit, and I've placed the hoodie inside of a plastic wash bin, which I purchased at the Dollar Tree dollar store. I have it on the top shelf, and then hanging over the edge of the plastic container is the other half of the hoodie that I did not tie up. Down below on the second shelf, I'm going to put another one of these plastic containers to catch any of the runoff from the melting ice and dye. Then in the various sections of the geodes, I'm going to randomly place all the dye. I've listed the dye colors down below, but let me go ahead and tell you which ones I'm using. I'm using Celadon, Heads or Teals, that was a special muck color from 2022, Electric Blue, Grecian Sea, Peacock Blue, Gunmetal Gray, Timberwolf, and Better Black from Dharma. Then I'm using Island Breeze from Pro Chemical and Dye, Seashell Blue and Crappy Scrappy from Grateful Dyes, and Iron Gray from Dye Spin. I'm using the different gray and black colors in with the blues and aquas to kind of break up the blue and aqua some. The grays and the blacks are going to give some really good color splits and add in a few other colors, which are going to be pretty interesting to look at on the hoodie. Now over the top of all of the dye, I'm going to place some additional soda ash. And I'm going to put quite a bit because I'm going to pretty much fill up this container with ice. I've included some process pictures so that you can see how the ice melted and wicked the dye down through the hoodie. Normally what I do is once all the ice melts and it starts to get dark outside, I will lay like a container lid just over the top of this container to keep any liquid or little critters out of the muck while it's processing, and just leave the shirt alone. I think I left it outside for probably about a day and a half before I took it to my utility sink and I started rinsing it. You can see the container down below start to fill up with all of the liquid. So it's pulling all of that muck up through the hoodie and depositing it in the container down below. See, when I went to actually go and rinse it out, there wasn't a whole lot of liquid left in the container. So to rinse the hoodie, I took it to my utility sink and I started rinsing it in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Then I untied the hoodie and warmed the water up to hot and continued rinsing in hot water to rinse out any of the excess dye that didn't bond with the hoodie. So because this is blue, and blue tends to be one of the colors that I think is the hardest to get fully rinsed out, instead of just continuing to rinse for a long time, I ran some hot water in my utility sink. I placed the hoodie in the hot water along with just a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent. The Blue Dawn dish detergent is pH neutral, so it is not going to harm the fabric, and it will help a little bit keep any of the excess dye that is soaked out of the fabric from redepositing onto the fabric. It's going to help neutralize that water. Remember, the soda ash raises the pH, which helps the dye bond to the fabric. So even though I tried to rinse out all the soda ash before I warmed the water up to hot, adding in the pH neutral dish soap is going to help keep that water pH neutral and discourage any bonding of that dye back onto the fabric. I change the water out when it cools off, and then I just kind of continue that soaking and rinsing and changing the water out until the water is just about clear. Then I went ahead and put the hoodie along with some Dharma's Professional Textile Detergent into my washing machine and washed it using a hot water cycle. Okay, so the hoodie has been washed and dried, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so what do you think? I really like this one. I think it turned out looking cool. I like the addition of like the aqua type colors in here. I've made one of these before, but I used mainly just blues and grays, so it had a very different look to it. This one with the aqua, I think it's a cool addition. I really love the geodes. I think they turned out looking really pretty. And some of the area right up next to that line has kind of got more of a watercolor feel to it, just because it's really tough the closer you get to that initial sinew line that I tied to get the definition lines. I mean, to get that sinew tightened down a whole lot on the geode part. So I think it's got kind of a watercolor feel, especially on the back, right up next to that initial sinew line, which I think is kind of a cool effect. It looks like I have one large streak of blue dye kind of going across the front and the back. That's kind of odd down in the gravity dye part. That must have just been one really intense piece of dye that just was pulled down through there. The thing that's really nice about these hoodies is they're 100% cotton. So even the inside of the hood dyes, and it just looks really cool. I've included all kinds of close-ups so you can see some of the different geodes and the funky shapes that they made and the color splits and just the way the dye moved. So I love this hoodie. Like I said, I've made several of these. I'm kind of calling them a Rockslide because of the way they're on an angle, and I just think that's kind of a cool name. So this is my blue and aqua Rockslide. I don't know. If you have a better name, let me know. But I love it. What do you guys think? Do you like this hoodie? Do you like the color combination? Drop me some comments down below and let me know. And if you've enjoyed watching me make it, I sure would appreciate it if you would like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.